You've heard for your reading First Samuel, the 30th chapter, verses 1 through 10, as well as 18 through 20. But I want us to turn our attention in this moment to the 7th and 8th verses, where you will find these words coming from the New Revised Standard Version. David said to the priest Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David. David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue this band? Shall I overtake them? He answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake and shall surely rescue. I want to preach this morning but what if God says no? We like to shout over the yes. We run around the church for the yes. We cry and snot and roll on the floor about the yes. But what if God says no? This is a text that I love this text, amen. Earlier in the text, it is one of what's going on here in this text is it's during a time period when David is living amongst the Philistine nation, when Saul is still trying to kill him. And he goes over to the Philistine nation, and the Philistine nation gives him a city called Ziklag. And in this moment, the Philistines are getting ready to go to war with Israel. And David and his men asked to join the Philistines in going to war with the Israelites. And the king initially thought that it would be all right, but the king's men said, no, isn't this David, the one whom they sang songs about, killing the Philistines? And so they send David and his men back home. And the text says that on their way home, they saw smoke rising, billowing towards the heaven. And the text doesn't say this, but I can imagine that as they saw the billows of smoke, the men began to run to see what exactly had happened to their fair city. I can imagine the hurt and the pain that the men had imagined in their minds of what happened to their daughters and their sons and their wives. I can imagine the anxiety in which they felt and the unknown as they ran with all their might in order to see what had happened to their fair Ziklag. Would there be carnage? Would there be death? Would there be simply plundering? What would happen once I reached my fair Ziklag? The men arrived. And we can say now, thanks be to God, but they didn't feel that way in the moment. There was no death there. Only missing wives and children. that was hurtful, that was painful? Where are my babies? Where are my wives? Furthermore, we don't even know who did this. The text said the men began to talk of stoning David. This is the part of the text I love, and I have to remind myself as a leader, sometimes folks might want to try to stone you. Amen, somebody. I ain't no fool. Reverend not Pastor Oliver. I've been around church folk all my life. But listen, the text says that as the men were talking about stoning David, the text says, but David strengthened himself in the Lord, in the midst of his hurt, because his family was gone, in the midst of the pain in which he felt because his men were so aching and hurting. The word says David strengthened himself in the Lord. And I like to preach about that, but that ain't what we're talking about today. We're talking about the 7th and 8th verse, in which in this moment after he got himself together, he asked the priest, the man of God, preacher, come and bring the ephod. And I need to have a little talk with the Lord. I need you to write this down. The first thing that we want to talk about is a sincere ask. A sincere ask. I want to juxtapose that, place it side by side with the things in which we too often do today, and that it is, we don't ask God a whole lot anymore. We like to tell God. You see, I learned in grammar school the difference between a period, an exclamation, and a question mark. Come on, somebody say amen. You see, one of the differences between a period and an exclamation mark is the sincerity in which you're saying it. Am I getting it right? With my grammar teachers. It's still a statement, but it's a statement with emphasis. Too oftentimes we come into church and we call a good prayer a good exclamation mark. It ain't even a period. We get up and shout and we tell God what God gonna do. Oh, y'all quiet. You see, when we go before God, first of all, we need to humble ourselves and understand that we can't tell God nothing. Who are we to tell God anything? Who are we who are finite in our physical flesh, finite in our understanding, short in our vision and ability to see, matter of fact, 2 seconds before us? Who are we to tell God and make exclamation statements towards God? Now, baby, I've stopped by here today that maybe we need to start slowing our roll and start asking God questions. The text says, David said to the priest Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, bring me the ephod. He was talking to Abiathar. See the difference between a question and a statement? Bring me the ephod. He can tell Abiathar that because he's the king. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David. David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue this man? Question mark. Shall I overtake them? Question mark. Let me go back to a text we like to use over in Matthew 7 through 8. It says, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the doors will be open for you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be open. There's nothing on our end that says that we are in control of anything. It says ask, seek, knock, do these things, and wait on the Lord to answer. Wait on the Lord to show. Wait on the Lord to open the door. In due season it shall come to pass. Come on now. But it all perpetuates on the understanding of inferiority. I ask, I seek after, I go knock on the door. But it's up to God to answer it. It's up to God to respond. It's up to God to allow himself to be found. It is not in my control. Too often times we try to control the controller.
That's right.
The one that said, let there be light, and there was. How can I, listen, the closest thing that I've ever come to creating is my son and my daughters. Listen, but that was only because God said so then. Who are we to tell God what to do? In Matthew, in 1 Samuel, and over again, the questions are asked. So I want to say the first thing that we need to understand is we need to move to a prayer life of sincere asking. What do you mean by sincere? I mean, I'm not saying that, you can make a statement in the form of a question. Y'all believe that? It's a leading. It's said in question words, but we really making a statement. Y'all with me? Yeah, wives are wonderful at that. It sounds like a question, but it ain't. Believe me, it's a statement. And we're wonderful with that with God. We come making question words, but our spirit and our heart, we're demanding from God what God better do. And I'll tell you how we also see it. Because when God doesn't do what we tell God better do, we fall out with God and we begin to say ain't nothing to this Jesus thing. We begin to stop showing up in church. Why? Because we mad because God didn't do what I told God to do. Okay, they quiet today. Bryce, we all right? All right, I hope you folks come and visit us again. But what if God says no? You see, the second thing, write this down. Said, first of all, it starts with a sincere ask. And number two, we must learn to accept and act on the response. We must learn to accept. That means be all right with. That means not hold a grudge about. That means quiet in your spirit whatever the answer is. I accept it. And I also act on it. Because then sometimes God will, first of all, let me say this. there's a presupposition here. It presupposes that you waited on a response. Yeah. See, when we come to the altar here, oftentimes in corporate worship, we come and we ask, or sometimes we share with God our desires. Amen. See how I said that? We share with God our desires. And that's all right to share with God your desires. Amen. And we get up and we go back to our seat. But in this moment, we don't always have time to wait on God to then respond to us. We simply, we ask our questions and we share our desires and we go back to our seats. Amen. But we need to understand that here at the altar on Sunday morning, that should not be your only prayer time. You see, we need to begin to have, as Grandmama said, a closet moment. We need to find somewhere every now and again where we can go like the old folks said and tarry before the Lord. We go down on our knees and we humble ourselves and say, God, I need you. You know, old folks sometimes will just simply say, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And wait on God to begin to rattle something on the inside and begin to speak within not our natural ears, but our spiritual ones. Sometimes we need to wait on God to respond to our requests. Sometimes we just get on down and get on up and think we've done something. Well, that works when you're not waiting on a response, when you ain't even interested in a response. You just want to tell God something. Yeah, those are quick prayers when you telling God stuff. But when you really want to ask a question and seek guidance and make right decisions and humble yourself and propel yourself to become what God created you to be. Listen, you need to understand you can't do this thing all by yourself because you don't know it enough. I don't care how many degrees you have. I don't care how long you've been living. I don't care if you're wise as Solomon. Listen, I need you to understand, what is your understanding stacked up against who God is? So we must learn to ask sincerely. We must ask the questions and wait on an answer. And once the answer received, we must accept it. And also respond to it. The question here was two questions. Shall I pursue him? The antithesis is, shall I stay? Y'all hear that? That was the question. Shall I pursue or shall I stay? The second question was, I want to get it correctly. The second question was, shall I overtake them? In other words, it starts with, shall I go after them? The second one is, will I be victorious? Y'all following me? Yeah. We must learn to say, Lord, I want to go and pursue. But you just might want me to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord all by yourself. Or maybe it's not meant for me to go. Amen, somebody. It reminds me of our story last week with Samson. You see, his mama and daddy told him, leave that what? Gal alone. And then what we talked about last week? But he wanted to do what he wanted to do. So now that we've seen this acted out in somebody else's life and we can agree with sometimes no is a good thing, I need you to also apply that same understanding to your own. How often have there been times in your life where a no would have saved you? Yeah, that's my third point right there. There may be salvation in the no. Let me repeat, my mic kind of went out a little bit. I want to make sure we heard it. There might be salvation in the no. How many of you know that everything that you want ain't meant for you? Come on, somebody say amen in here. Amen, somebody. You see, I want that chocolate cake, but it ain't necessarily good. Come on, somebody say amen. Yeah. See, I'm you know, I got the black folk disease, and I got blood pressure. Amen. And but I love bacon. Amen. Oh, I want some bacon on everything. Listen, come on, somebody say amen. I chop up some bacon and put it in my nice good salad. Come on, somebody. I'll take some bacon and slap it around some asparagus and put it on the grill. Come on, somebody say amen in this building. Amen. I can't think of nothing that don't taste better with bacon. Come on, somebody say amen. Yeah, bacon is good too. But bacon ain't good for me. And so I must be under the understanding that sometimes saying no is a good thing for me. No matter how much I want it, no matter how good it tastes to me, no matter how good it looks, I need to understand that every now and again, I need to be willing to accept and act accordingly to some no's in my life. You see here in this text, first of all, David didn't know who did this thing. David didn't know even where to go to start the pursuing of this band. David had no information about what was going on. He didn't know if when he got a hold of them, amen, somebody say, you know, a dog chasing a car. But what he gonna do when he catch up with it? Amen, somebody. Come on, somebody say amen. David might have gone after them, but when he caught up with them, oh, things could be a lot different. Come on, somebody say amen in this building. But thank God he asked the question, first of all, shall I stay or shall I go? I need some folks to begin to ask God some questions in this building. God, what shall I do? Wait on God, somebody say wait on God. Wait on God to respond. Wait on God and don't think you already know the answer. Wait on God to see what God has to say. Wait on God. Somebody wait on God. Somebody say I'm going to wait. I know the enemy is trying to put a timeline on you. The enemy is going to start making you think it's going to go away if you don't act right now. But somebody say I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see what the Lord going to say. And whatever the Lord says, I'm good with it. No matter if God says yes, I'm walking with it. If God said no, I'm standing on it. But whatever God says, I understand. It's going to be from a become too entitled, too spoiled. God's been too good to us. We have begun to take God for granted. We must realize who we are. We are God's humble servants. But thanks be unto God, because of Jesus, our status has been elevated. I'm not just a servant, but I'm a child. Being a child of God. You see, I told little Marquise when he started smelling himself, I said, you got three choices. I said, you can go to school and continue to live in my house. You can go to the military. Or you can go be grown. He understood that what go be grown means go get your own house, pay your own bills, do your own thing. But as long as you're living under my roof, we abide by my rules. And if you can't do that, we'll go be grown. And I believe God has that same mentality for us. If you want to live under my roof, under my protection, under my provision, under my care, eat my food, drink my juice, eat my snacks, live in my bed, enjoy my heater and AC. That's fine. But you gotta abide by my rule. And you gotta respect me. If I say yes, all right. But if I say no, that better be all right too. If you can't handle that, then go be grown. And some of us are living in how we're living because we decided we want to be grown. Some of us are struggling because we wanted to be grown. Do what we want to do. Live how we want to live. Come in when we want to come in. Bring over who we want to bring over. Don't feel like doing no chores. I ain't doing it. I don't want to give God no time, talent, and treasure. I ain't doing it. Okay? God said, go be grown then. You figure it out. But listen, he decided he wanted to be grown. But when he came to himself and wanted to come back, just like Jesus tells us in the prodigal son, the good father always stands at the door waiting. I ain't mad at you. Why? Because I'm still your daddy. You just needed to figure some stuff out on your own. But I'm still here waiting. Waiting for you to figure it out and come on back home. Stand with me. The doors of God's church are never closed. But at this moment, we recognize the fact that they are open. And God is standing at the out by yourself. You were grown, right? And that's all right. You see, God ain't like us. See, we hold stuff over folk. We get petty with folk. Now, don't come back now. You ain't want to listen to me. Now, don't come back here now. And that's how some of us do, right? No, but God said, no, I'm not going to be petty. I just want you to come home. Come home. If you feel the Lord tugging at you on the inside just a little bit, that's the Lord beckoning you. Just come